everyone, it's Miss Culver and
Miss Evans,
and we are back at Owls Creek. Beautiful evening, and we're almost at sunset, and it's a gorgeous day. It is November 9th, and we are here to measure our oyster and collect some qualitative and quantitative data, and we're just going to check everything out. We are also with our good friend Rachel from the Virginia Aquarium, great partners and great neighbors of Virginia Beach. Let's check out our float.
it is full of debris. We've had a lot of storms lately, a lot of changing tides. This past weekend we had some coastal flooding, and our oyster float has decided to collect all of the pine needles, leaves, and debris that we have here. So we are going to have to fish out our oyster net out of here. It's not hurting them at all, but it's definitely covering them up.
So the last time that we were measuring, remember they were very, very small. And remember that word we learned, spat, which are the baby oysters.
You grab that.
This?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I almost took Miss Emmons out. So this is our float. Remember we left them in that bag because they were so tiny. We were afraid that they were going to escape because they were so small. So we're going to take this out and investigate what's inside of it.
And if you can see, it's very, very low tide. We're pretty far down here. And the water's really clear. It's very glassy at this time of night. It's actually very shallow right now over here. It's also very stinky.
And I'm looking out on Owls Creek and I could see fish that are coming up to the surface. So it's a very peaceful time of the day.
It's also feeding time at dusk. So
Yes.
let's take these up and crack that baby open.
Okay.
They're not too heavy yet because they were so small. Right now, I don't really see any predators on the outside.
Lots of plane action. So we're just taking the pine needles up and we're just looking for any living things that are on the outside. Do you see anything?
I don't see anything today. We're good.
Pretty clean.
And as you can see, if we hold this up, you can see how tiny the holes are. So our oysters stayed in there, even though those holes are about the same size.
We have two different kinds of nets. We have a larger one in the spring. We'll have to, in the spring or like February?
It'll probably be spring.
Yeah. So this is the last time we're going to collect data until I think the CTEC children are going to be looking at some live oysters.
Now I wonder why they remember, if they do remember, or maybe they don't know yet, why we might not collect data in the depths of winter.
Yeah, so
Really
we talked
cold.
about that last time. Remember we were talking about the biggest time for the growth.
And they don't really grow in the winter for a very specific reason. They're not dead. They don't necessarily hibernate. There's another word.
Ding, 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 ding. Yes, they go dormant. Is that correct?
That is correct.
They go
essentially
dormant.
Go to sleep,
They go to sleep.
but they just slow down.
Slow down just like all of us in the winter.
Yes, they do.
Most of us. And we are not littering over here in Owls Creek at the Virginia Aquarium. We are being very good stewards of our environment. We are cleaning up and we're going to transport them. Can you make a prediction? How big do you think our oysters are going to be today?
They're way down at the bottom there.
Can you get a close of what it looks like on the inside of this?
I'm trying to open it. Hold on.
There you go. That's a great view.
Now we kept them in their little green mesh bag because we really wanted to be sure that they stayed safe and they didn't grow out of and fall out of these little holes. So we really might need to just dump that bag in
I
here.
think so. So
Right
science is
attached.
fun and it's everywhere. And sometimes
There
it's
they go.
messy, but messy is good. And
now-
look at this.
It looks like we have some old ones that were in there. So this is a really big one that's an old one, but we can keep the shell in there. Oh, there's a little guy, little krill. That will colonize to this, but it's open, and I wonder if they remember what that means.
Do you remember what it's called when it's open? Yes.
Sadly,
It's passed away.
it has passed away.
It's died.
But we always keep the shells.
Yes.
So as you can see, we have some that have, ooh, there's a little crab.
Yeah.
Little predator there. See the crab? We have some that have outgrown this little netting. We have some big ones in here. We have some that are still just as tiny, so we'll probably want to keep some in there. And we'll ship them out. So see, this guy's falling out, so he should probably still stay in that net to be safe. And we're gonna measure him. Okay. And so
I'm gonna wait till this plane goes by. I want to say something to the children.
well, we were talking about weather. We need to mention our temperatures.
So right before we came on, we were collecting some data, and Miss Emmons checked out the water temperature of Owls Creek, which was what?
63 degrees, and our air temperature is actually pretty warm for right now. It was 69 degrees.
Oh, so our water temperature is less than
Yes.
our air temperature. And a lot of the children at SeaTac were asking me, hey, Miss Clover, how are our oysters doing? Well, we're showing you right now how they're doing. They are thriving, meaning they are doing very, very well.
So I saw some little shrimp in there, and we saw that crab. Did we see anything else in there that would be considered other organisms?
Worms.
I think we did see some bloodworms. That's not here, but I'm going to go ahead and write that in.
And I have a question.
Yes.
I wonder, are we going to put these oysters back in this bag, like you said, or are we going to put them in loose in the bag?
We'll have to compare one of the smallest ones to the hole in the mesh net and make sure that they won't fall out.
Okay, I'm just going to cut this. I think this will be easier, and then we'll just read
You
it.
get him? Rachel's over there trying to save our crab.
I know.
So part of our, are you on this? Part of our tallying this month is also going to see our oyster mortality, which is another word for death. And that's not a bad thing, but they like to keep track of how many we have that die. So we have 2,000 to start with, and then we're going to check how many have died. So if they're open, they're dead. Our old one that I showed you doesn't count. We're only going to count the ones within our babies.
Right, and when she meant the old one, she meant the one we had last year that just kind of left in there.
Yes.
All right, let's put them on here so we can see them.
All right, so we're
that
going to
okay?
take our data here.
Or do you want to put them on the top?
No, that's fine. So see, that guy fell out, so he's really, really little.
Yeah.
So we also can use, this is our millimeter oyster ruler that they do give us. We always measure at the hinge of the oyster, always at the end of the ruler.
And we measure millimeters, right?
Yes.
And I actually have the millimeter ruler.
We do. We can put that up there too.
Okay.
All right, so we'll only do a handful here just to get a sample of our data.
So when we do a sample, we're going to do, what do you want to do, 20? 15?
Sure. How many do I have here? Let's do about 25.
Okay, and we're also looking to see if there are any open.
Oh, see, I think that's a worm in there. You see that?
Yes.
See that creature?
The bloodworm, right?
Yep, that's a
Oh, there's a couple of them.
Yep, they like to be in there. There's a little krill.
Yep. So a lot of the children were asking, Miss Emmons, are these predators to the oysters, or are they interrelate with them? They function well with them.
They can be predators depending on what they're feeding on. Rachel, do you have any info on that?
Yeah, some definitely do. I would have to look up this specific one.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely some that are going to predate on them.
Right.
But I don't know if this species
I do
in
know
particular
crabs
do.
also sometimes tend to enter the oyster, and you could open an oyster and find a crab in that, and then that would be definitely a form of a predator.
Crabs.
Yep.
You should find them in there.
You'll find them inside
So
of that.
even we're adult scientists, we're always researching and want to learn. So that would be something that I wondered about, that you all wondered, so we would look that up.
Yeah.
All right, so now we're looking and observing closely, Miss Emmons, and oh, look, man, you have some good eyes. I see that. See that?
What is it? It's just a little krill.
Yeah, I think so.
So right now I don't see any open.
I don't either,
They
and
look-
that's a good sign.
They might look open because they're attaching to each other, which
Look at
is
that.
what you'll see.
Like a cluster.
But that's not, they're starting to colonize together, but they're not open, which is a very good sign so far.
I can't
All
believe
right.
it's November. The mosquitoes are out.
I know, I just got bit myself.
Yeah.
We're right here at dusk in the low tide of standing water.
Yep.
All right.
All right, here we go.
There is a a worm that really does like to target the oyster's baby, the spat. And when they're juveniles, and those are oyster flatworms.
Oh, that might be
So
what
they
that
can be
guy
cream
is.
colored, gray, or orange, and they can be about the size of a quarter when they're fully grown.
Ooh, well, get
So
those out of
I
there.
am going to take these little worms.
They're gonna go back in the water.
Notice I'm being very brave, being a risk taker, and I'm taking them out to save our baby oysters.
So this ruler's kind of hard to see. I might use our,
Is it?
well, just to count. I might use our
Yeah.
big paper one here.
Okay.
All right, so what do we think? Kind of hard to tell. Yeah.
Maybe it was right there. So 15.
Yeah, I think about 15 milliliters, right? So that's one of our larger ones.
And remember how we're measuring that? We're measuring with the hinge. Is that correct, Miss Emmons?
And it's hard because they curve up and they're round. You know, it is hard to get
Ooh,
it.
that one's about 20.
Yeah, that one's a big one. That's our biggest one yet.
20. All right. I'm going to put these ones over. Don't worry, I'm not going to get all big.
So that's not the hinge. That's the end.
Oh, I'm sorry. I saw someone walking over. I thought it was a deer.
Ooh.
Go ahead.
Oh, that might have been our biggest. All right, where's the 2? What do we think? 21?
21. Okay. So far we have
big enough to eat yet.
15, 20, and 21. All right, let's keep going.
They look nice.
19?
All right. Is that 19?
Mhm.
Now, some of them are so
Yeah,
small.
so let's look at some of our teeny tinies.
Wow, they're really small.
Now, all of these came from the same colony and the same spat, so it's interesting that they're growing at different rates because they are essentially in the same
well, just like
family, we
children and
would
people
say.
grow differently.
Yes.
Like you and I are very short.
We are not tall people.
Right.
We would be these little oysters.
That's right. But we have our friends that are taller than us that are our students. And you know who you are.
What do you think?
Yeah, I'd say 10.
All right, so far we have 15, 20, 21, 19, 10, and 10. I'm going to try to find some medium-sized ones.
Okay. Because then I bet we could ask our students to find the average, and then maybe we could, or the mean, and then we could have them find the median of what we have here. 11. And our outliers usually end up being pretty obvious. Oh, that's moving. 20.
Oh, yes.
Now this one is forming together, as Miss Emmons taught us that word, colonize, right?
Yes.
So did you want to measure one of those?
Sure, I'll measure the bottom. Oh yeah, it's a long one. It's about 21. So they start to colonize, they send out special chemical signals, and it makes them attached to one another. Kind of like how you know your family members are your family members just by hearing their voice or by listening to them. They're able to send out
That is so
signals
cool.
that we
is
can't
really
see
awesome.
or hear.
I love science. I love learning.
All right.
What do you have for that
6
one?
or 7 more. That one's right at 20.
Okay.
So those seem to be...
This is kind of like, it reminds me of when you all go and get your checkup at the doctor and you get weighed and measured. That's what we're doing.
About 10? I think we need to do some of those really tiny ones because those are definitely in there.
All right, I'm going to give you a tiny, tiny one.
Make sure they're represented here
Oh,
in our
and
sample.
let's show them what I brought the hand lens.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sorry, I did it backwards. Let's see if you can get that. Can you see that with the hand lens?
I don't know. It's a little blurry. Might be easier if I hold it.
So if we're observing some data, what color do you see? What size? What shape?
Maybe a bigger one.
And we are trying to do this virtually today so we can give both Lynn Haven and SeaTac an opportunity to see up close and personal.
So
And
I
we're
start
hoping
to see,
to,
yep, the shiny parts are starting to come out, and they actually really camouflage with the bottom of our Owl Creek here.
Okay, here you go.
What do you think? It's getting so muddy. I can't see the numbers.
10.
And then I'm going to give you a little tiny one. I think this is our last one. It's so
Oh, that
tiny.
is so tiny.
It's so tiny, I don't even know which side the hinge is.
We're at like 4 or 5.
I think I got it backwards. Oh, it's so hard.
What do you think, Mr. Roth? We have our math specialist here with us.
Thank goodness.
Help us with our data.
1, 2, 3, 4. I would say like 6.
All right.
All right, so let me read off the data that we have so far. 15, 20, 21, 19, 10, 10, 11, 20, 21, 11, 20, 10, 8, 10, 6.
Yes.
So
right.
as you can see, we have lots. Remember we said we had 2,000 oysters. The good news is when we were looking at them, we didn't see any open. So that means they're still doing very well and healthy.
Yes.
And you were talking about the mean, the median. Do you want to talk about that, or do you want to wait on that?
I think we should have them start thinking about how they would go through that process to find the mean, the median, the mode, and the range, and then what our outliers would be. And then they could work with their teacher on finding that information.
Sure. And the 4th and 5th graders, this might be right up your alley. And the younger students, you can just look at the data and have conversation about what patterns do you see and what does the data tell us.
And I think we could also maybe create a graph of some kind for a visual aspect of our data.
Yeah, we can get our instructional technology support with that.
All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to put them into our net, and we're going to have to see which ones possibly fall out, and we will have to keep those guys in here.
So do you want to keep them all in there
So
to
I'm
be
thinking-
safe? I'm a mother. I just want to keep them safe.
But see, the issue is they're going to start attaching to the bag.
Exactly.
So I think we need to dump them out and pull out these guys,
Okay, the bigger ones?
the bigger ones, to go into just the actual mesh net, and then we'll put all the other babies back in their little home.
Okay. And we're always problem solving out loud together, and we're collaborating and communicating together. And
So
that's
these guys are way too tiny,
Yes.
so these will go back in.
see how the big ones are attaching. Yes, you were correct on that. I just love looking at them.
So we don't want to have trash be a part of their new colony, so get these guys off. It's really tiny. See, they're not ready to be on their own out of that net.
Some of them are ready to leave the little net, not the nest, the net.
Oh, look at that one. He's really taking shape.
Mm-hmm.
He's changing color too. That's usually the color. They end up actually being white.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want to reach that net? Or you
Sure.
know what? Let's put the big ones in the bucket, and then I can just dump the bucket in the...
Okay.
That works. They're very, they are very resilient. They are very tough. They're very sharp. However, if you do step on them, you would crush them, and that would end in death for them. Or it does take effort to open them. You would have to probably use like an oyster shucker. So just with your own hands, you probably couldn't. But if you encounter them and you're barefoot, it's very likely that you will cut your foot, and you would have to go to the doctor and get some medicine because they have a lot of bacteria on them. So now this looks open, but it's two that have completely formed together. But if you look at it real quick, it would look open. Ms. Culver, do you want to tell them about why we're smelling so much from these baby oysters? They have a very strong scent.
So I'm looking, I'm watching, and I'm smelling a great odor. And I'm not a seafood person, so it really has a good odor for me. But we're in these brackish water, is that correct? So we're in this brackish water at Owls Creek, and all these organisms and all mesh together to form this very pleasant smell of marine life.
Yes.
Is that correct?
Oysters, they have one main job in our watershed here. And I wonder if anybody remembers what they do.
So many of your teachers were reading some books about oysters. Many of you were researching on YouTube. So you learned that those oysters do what? Absolutely right. They filter the water and they help clean the water.
Clean the water. So they smell like all the muck and guck that they cleaned out of the water. So they are pretty dirty, but